Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and today we're going to be covering one of the most useful Sketch plugins if you work in a team. Perhaps you're sending off your design to a developer, or maybe you just want to have things labeled in a way that you can see them nice and easy when you're having either yourself or somebody else code up your design. This is called Sketch Measure, and so it actually measures all of your objects on your page based on what you want it to do, and it gives them the labels on your document. Therefore, you can export your document maybe as a PDF, maybe as an image or something, send to your designer, your developer, whoever's building the site, and then that person will have all of the values just like they need them for margins, for colors, for font sizes, and things like that, all output directly annotated on your design. So it's super useful. Check out Sketch Measure. So here we have this totally fictional layout. This isn't any sort of complete design or anything, so don't worry about too much about that. However, it's going to be nice to have a useful example that we can see to mock up using Sketch Measure. So the first thing we need to do is install Sketch Measure. We can do that with our toolbox. I'm going to just go ahead and go do Sketch Toolbox here. I opened that using Alfred. If you don't use that app, you should check it out. It's really great. So now we can just search for Measure, and you'll notice that the first one is Sketch Measure. Let's go ahead and select that, and it's going to download and install. Okay, so we now have Sketch Measure installed on our computer. Let's see how we can use this to make our workflow a little bit better. Let's say we're passing this off. Now, if you've already had Sketch open when you installed this plugin, you're gonna have to close Sketch, and then you can go ahead and reopen it. Let's open my recent file that we just had going on. Okay, here we go. Now let's get to measuring. Let's say we wanted to annotate this header. We wanted to let the designers know that this header is going to be 62 pixels tall. So what we could do is select this layer, select this rectangle. From here, we can do Control-Shift-2. And you'll notice it wants you to choose your resolution. So you can use standard 1x equals 1 pixel. So basically that's going to make 62 equal to 62 pixels. You can also use points in Retina points where everything's doubled, Retina HD, which is ×3, and then you have all these other options, ×4, ×3, ×2, whatever. Since I'm just going to be using this in pixels, we can go ahead and output this that way. That way, if the designer or the developer needs to do some sort of math to figure out percentages, it's nice and simple. So we can just click Save. And you'll notice that we have some information here. So let's zoom in and check this out. So now what you'll see is that we've had some things created for us. We have this box that shows how tall it is, and we have this box with a line that shows how wide this is. In fact, if we click over, and let's say we just drag this over, you can now see that there's little ticks on the bottom, ticks on the top, to let you sort of know that this is signifying the height. Now, what's interesting here is that since this design is going to be layout, it's going to be responsive and things like that, the developers in this case don't really need to know how wide this document is because it's going to be changing and things are going to be fluid and whatever. So what's great about this is that if we don't want any of this information, it's created these as two completely separate groups. We can just go ahead and select this width and just click delete. Now you can really measure anything. Let's say we wanted to measure the dimensions of this logo here. We could do the same thing, Control-Shift-2. And now we have these annotations right here. So it's 130 wide, 46 tall, perfect. So as you can see, we're mocking up our document. Now let's get to measuring some space, okay? So we've measured now the size of things, which is Control-Shift-2. Now let's measure the spacing of an item. Now these shortcuts where you do Control-Shift and then a number, you'll see this repeating throughout this plugin. If you need a cheat sheet, you can always go to the GitHub page for Sketch Measure. I'll put that in the video description. And so let's go ahead and measure the distance between something. Now you'll notice here that we have these play buttons, and we want to measure the distance between the play button and the tutorial name. So I've had these both selected here. I did that just by holding Shift and clicking, or you can just sort of click and drag and select those two. Now we can do Control-Shift 3 this time to measure the space in between. You can notice it's teal, it's measuring the space in between, and it says 17 pixels. We can further see this by, let's say, move this one over 3, and let's select these two and do Control-Shift-3. You should see it now says 20. I guess it maybe wasn't perfect before. It's 19 now. So I'm gonna go ahead and undo that and just move this back to where it was. As you can see, we've measured the distance between 2 items, but let's say we wanted to measure the distance between these 2 lines. So for this to work, you always need to select 2 elements. So if we select this play button in this top line, we could do, again, Control-Shift-3. Now once again, select the play button in the bottom line, Control-Shift-3. Now you'll notice that some of these are overlapping, so what we could really do is find this one just by clicking it. You see it here, and we can bump it over. Or if that's not what you'd like to do, you can actually take this and go ahead and further modify it by moving some of the important information, such as the text and the box here, and we can just drag this over here, move it like so, and now let's take the triangle, and we have that selected as the diamond up here, and I'm just moving it over like that. So you can see, because these are just building sketch layers for us, we can take them and modify them as needed. Cool, so let's say this isn't really clear what the bounding box for this play button is. Let's say we want to have this be some sort of a square overlay, since that's really what it's taking up in the DOM anyways. We can go ahead and create an overlay with Control-Shift-1, and now you can see it has this red box around it. If we were to move this red box to the bottom of the chain here, now all of our other things are going to overlay on top of it, and you can see this illustrates quite nicely the spacing here. Okay, let's get some text information now, some typography information. Let's go ahead and select this text field here. This is going to be the series name, and now I just have to do Control-Shift-4, and amazingly we get this box that says 36 pixels, Open Sans condensed. It says the color in RGB as well as a hex value. Let's select this tutorial name. We can go and do the same, and we can just do Control-Shift-4. And as you can see, we have another 36 pixel Open Sans. This one's condensed light and the same color. And as you can see, as I zoom out, this is turning into a really nicely annotated file. And in fact, creating something like this would take you quite a bit of time. So these annotations are really to help other people or to help you understand the patterns that you're coming up with when creating your design. Okay, now we have 2 more items to go over within Sketch Measure. Let's say we wanted to grab some properties. For instance, we wanted to grab some properties of this circle. So let's go ahead and zoom back in here. And the circle play button, I have the layer selected. I'm going to actually open this folder up, select the oval itself, and then from here we can do Control-Shift-5. It's going to ask you what you want. Since I only really want the fill value, I'm going to unselect border color because there's no border, and there's no shadow or anything like that. These are the properties it allows you to select. So let's click Save, and we now have the fill for the oval. In fact, we can set that right there. And then now let's select the triangle, do the same thing, Control-Shift-5, we're going to select the fill, and as you can see, this is AAA in hex, and 170 all out in RGB. Cool, so we now have both of those annotated as well, so the developer doesn't have to come in here and click this, double click this, open up the triangle, select the triangle, and then click fill, and then find out that it's A's. Okay? So that makes it really nice and easy to work with. The last annotation is going to just be to draw a standard label. So these labels, as you can see, are all just square boxes, white text with a bit of color to stand out. Let's say you want to label this fill. So let's say we want to let them know that this annotation is in fact this triangle. So we can make a text link and we can just say triangle. Now with this triangle text selected, we could do Control-Shift-6, and it turns that text into a label. So now we have triangle. In fact, if you wanted to just duplicate this, you could duplicate this, then edit this text to say circle, but you'll notice that the label isn't going to fit the text itself. So, or you could just type circle again and then do Control-Shift-6. Okay, so we now have a document that's looking really nicely annotated here, but let's say we want to go back to designing this. How are we going to have to get by all of these annotations? Well, we can actually show and hide the annotations themselves. So let's toggle all of them hidden by doing Control-Shift-H, and they're all hidden. You can do it again, Control-Shift-H, and they're back. And likewise, let's say we don't want any of these touched. Let's say once you've done your annotations, typically you're not going to want to move them around. You can do Control-Shift-L, and it locks all of them. So now we can't accidentally select or grab one. We can modify our document as needed, and then perhaps change our annotations later. Let's say we hate all of our annotations, we want to see them gone, they were just a bad idea. Let's say you wanted to get rid of them, you could always come to Plugin, Sketch Measure, and then click Clear Reset Artboard Measure. And now they're all gone, and we have to choose our resolution setup again. I'm going to click Cancel and then do Command-Z. I'm going to save this, and you can download this sketch file from a link in the video description. I'll have it available after this video has been published, so you can play around with that. Check it out. As always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in the video or hit us up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tutorials. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.